want to take a drink? You can take a drink.
Well, I was gonna say, who's recording this? Who's recording this?
We are.
Who's
You
gonna
and me.
start? This is gonna be great. Who's gonna start?
I feel like I have to leave this in. I'll start.
Okay. Oh God, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and
Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. I'm Dylan, and I am with my co-host
Gab.
And we are, for the first time, talking about a movie that was suggested by a listener, a viewer, a listener. We don't have views. You know what I mean, though. And first, I feel like we started doing this a couple weeks back, and we stopped doing it. Why are you listening to us talk about movies? What do we know? Do we know anything? Do we have any expertise in this?
I think we have adjacent expertise, and I think that's what makes this so exciting. So I am a former actor. I went to college for acting. I have my degree in theater performance. I spent a lot of time in the television industry. I am very familiar with that medium. My film knowledge is lackluster. So this was born of a way for Dylan to get me to watch some movies that he's always been telling me to watch, and for me to do the same.
I have a degree in film, video, and interactive media, and more than anything, though, I am just very passionate about movies. I think my dream job had always been just to be like Roger Ebert, basically, who I could not find. I know we've been going to his reviews a lot. I could not find a review from him on today's movie, but let's talk about what today's movie is. So first of all, shout out to Scotty Cameron, who was the first person to suggest a movie to us, and boy, what a ride this movie was. Neither one of us has seen this movie before. I had seen some clips. Today's movie was Vampire's Kiss, starring Nicolas Cage from 1989. I think I saw kind of both, which was weird. So I think it might have premiered at some festivals in 1988 and got a wide release in 1989.
I saw a lot of conflicting information on this movie, including the genre.
The genre confused me a bit too, but I think I can give you more about that when we get to the facts.
Sure.
So, Gab, what's the plot of this movie? And I'm so glad I'm throwing this on you and I get to just read the actual plot summary. Because good luck describing this.
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
So what I'm going to try to do, number one, is avoid spoilers in the plot description. Number two, I'm going to try to avoid how I felt about it. And number three, I don't think there ever was a third thing. So we're on a roll. This is why we can't do this after I've had a long day. So, okay, to avoid spoilers and to avoid explaining how I felt about it, I would say this is a movie about a man who believes he has been bitten by a vampire and turns into one. End of sentence.
You know what? That was good. That was succinct. And quite frankly, it's very close to what the actual one is. And I think it's good that we try and introduce without spoilers, because to let you know now, listener, we will spoil the crap out of everything we talk about.
Absolutely.
It's just when will we start spoiling it? So blanket spoiler warning for the whole show that you're listening to, because at some point we're just going to start wildly spoiling things. So what does the IMDb plot summary say? After an encounter with a neckbiter, a publishing executive thinks that he's turning into a vampire. Which is pretty spot on for what you said.
Wow.
Pretty dang close. Keep it simple, stupid. Not calling you stupid.
No, it's okay. Today you can.
Tagline. Seduction, romance, murder. The things one does for love.
Insane. Okay.
All right, Gab, we got to stop talking about Vampire's Kiss, which was requested by Scotty Cameron, so we can go to the mail time, which first of all includes a comment from Scotty Cameron.
I am shocked. This is unbelievable.
Mail time!
When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
On the birdcage, Scotty said, I didn't realize Robin Williams said fuck the senator when talking about Gene Hackman. I watched the movie on public TV, so lines like that would have been censored. I do agree with Gab that it is a movie to watch before you die.
Yes. Yes.
You couldn't see it, but Gab just like froze in a smile. Dylan, you got me to agree that Raiders of the Lost Ark, Hot Fuzz, and The Thing are movies to watch before you die. It's a little dated. Gene Hackman even mentions that Jeb Bush is the governor of Florida, which would have been the late 90s, early 2000s. I think characters like Agador are meant to parody stereotypes of gay people to show how absurd it is that people view gay people like that. Which I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I suppose you could make the argument of it.
I don't think that's the case at the time of the Birdcage, but I think maybe that's the case more now.
Yeah, that's why I would say you could make the argument. I don't think that's what they were going for, but you could make
Yeah.
that argument.
Yeah.
I know Gene Hackman is Lex Luthor from the Christopher Reeve Superman films. Gene Hackman was also Defense Secretary David Bryce in the movie No Way Out, which I saw on this TV right before the Birdcage, which I don't think I know that movie. Although I
I've
feel like
heard
if
of
I
it.
looked it up, I would have heard of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I should have worded the comment about the gang in the movie not being skinheads better. Gab, the most you said about me prior was bemoaning the fact that I thought Hot Fuzz was a movie to watch before you die, which just made me laugh. Great show as always, and stay yappy. Yappy, of course, referring to the Jump on the Batwagon podcast on the Pod Tower YouTube channel and other podcast places that we often reference to. So that was well-
I don't belong to this. Is not a royal we in terms of me and you.
we as in me, Scotty Cameron, and of course, Keen Machine, who also sent in a message.
Whoa.
So, subject, congrats on 10 episodes. Greetings, Dylan and
thank you.
Gab. To celebrate your completion of 10 podcast episodes, I thought it would be fun to take a listen back through your past verdicts that have brought us to where we are today. Please enjoy. And Dylan, there's no time limit yet imposed on this realm, so you'll have to forgive my voice message breaching the 1 minute mark.
Wow.
Keep it keen.
Previously on Movies to Watch Before You Die.
So my expectations weren't met, but that is not the movie's fault. That's America's fault.
Would my future children have to see this movie someday? No.
Like I said, I wouldn't turn it off if it were coming on TV. So that's where I stand. I'm sorry that we disagree. Maybe next week.
I mean, I don't really trust the Vatican for a great sense of humor, but okay.
Well, you know what? I don't really trust you for a great sense of humor anymore. So how about that? I don't think that it changed my life. I don't think it's a movie that you have to watch before you die. And I think my life is no better off now.
I guess it's nice that we agree that this is like this was not good. Not good. I can tell you
Not good.
Don't watch this.
I am not going into this with the idea that I want to dislike it or I want to disagree. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I would say it's not a movie to watch before you die. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen.
Thank you.
If somebody needed a fun way to spend an hour and a half, would you tell them to watch this movie?
No. Because I could think of so many. No, f- you. I could just think of so many better movies.
Okay.
People can change, Dylan.
Yeah, you sound desperate right now.
I just really love this movie, and I'm gonna be so angry if you don't love it.
Oh, I liked it. I liked it, and I'm like
I
so
hate you.
hesitant. I can't, Cap. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Will Dylan and Gab ever be able to positively agree on a film? Will they ever find a movie to watch before we die? Tune in now to find out on this week's episode of the podcast.
This voice message is brought to you by me, Keen Machine. Keep it keen.
So first of all,
Oh,
just utterly
my
raising
God.
the bar for mail and voice messages. Wow.
Wow, I cannot believe that. That's the coolest thing anybody's ever made for me.
How freaking cool is that?
That's unbelievable. I mean, I'm you can't see this, listener, but my mouth was open from start to finish.
She looked foolish, but obviously impressed, as was
Wow.
I. I'm fully. I guess I'll ask first, but I totally am like, oh, I should just steal that and use that to advertise the podcast. I'm like,
Oh my
wow.
God, you have to. It's so good. Like, what are we doing on Instagram? We got to be using that. Wow. Keen Machine, listen, Scotty Cameron, I still think you're awesome, but Keen Machine has taken the top spot. #1 fan for me.
Okay, well, let's not rank fans. That seems like a bad way to go. We
You don't
love
think
you.
that's the right way
We
to
love
advertise?
both of our fans. You
We love
can't-
both of you
when we have
equally.
single-digit fans, we can't ostracize anybody. Okay. So,
Fine.
Scotty, thank you so much for commenting all the time. We very much appreciate it.
Yep.
Keen, we very, very much appreciate this voice message. This was amazing and very
Wow.
surprising and super cool. Will we agree today on Vampire's Kiss? I hope so.
Me too.
So, Gab, I think it is time for us to start voicing our opinions. We gave the briefest version of what the plot is, but let's get to our opinions and let's talk about Vampire's Kiss.
In this critic's opinion,
You know, that's just like
your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
All right. Well, obviously spoilers. I'm going to go right into it. So the beginning of this movie, I thought to myself a number of things. Number one, I thought, who recommended this and why do they hate us? What did we do wrong? That's the first thing I thought. Then I thought, Nicolas Cage had a career after this. Like, he went on to do more things. How is that possible? This is horrendous. His accent, the voice he uses, like, forget the accent for a moment. He uses this crazy sort of very breathy voice that is very difficult to listen to.
He does use his voice, Gab, and he uses it for the entire film. And just when you think he's going to stop, he goes even harder.
It's insane. It's so, let me backtrack a little bit. So at first I was like, this is terrible. There's a scene, and it's actually a scene that I went back, recorded on my phone, and sent you a 3-second clip of, where he sees a bat. He like stops, does this crazy hair thing, and then runs out of the room. And I was like, this is the worst acting I've ever seen. I thought to myself, I would do anything to be watching Clerks right now. I would do anything to be watching the Lizzie McGuire movie right now. This is horrendous. And that is why I said to you offline a couple of seconds ago, I had to watch this movie in 3 different sittings, because I would just be like, I can't give my full attention to this. It's too tough. So that's how I felt about it. The first time I sat down to watch it, I watched about 45 minutes. And what happened was, based on the voice he was using and the things that he was saying, I thought, well, clearly he's a vampire. Like from the very beginning, from the first scene, I was like, obviously he's a vampire. He's got this weird voice. He's got this weird hair. He does these weird things with his face. He's clearly a vampire. Then he gets bitten by a vampire. And I'm like, oh God, he wasn't a vampire the whole time. Now he's a vampire. Because I just thought he was being such a weirdo, but nope, that's just Nicolas Cage acting. And then I turned it off because I couldn't take it anymore. Then the second time I watched it, I watched up until he goes to the nightclub. So there's only like 20 minutes left in the film at that point. And I was just like, okay, whatever. This is terrible. This is bad acting. He like rapes the secretary. He tries to shoot himself. I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Then I sat down to watch the final 20 minutes about 40 minutes ago. And I thought, this is actually kind of good. He's actually doing a pretty good job. I get it now. He's not a vampire. He never was a vampire. It's just crazy. And then I felt so bad for how poorly I treated Nicolas Cage, but I don't take it back. I do think it was terrible. I think all the choices that were made were terrible in the acting. I think everyone in the movie is terrible. I think the writing is terrible. I think the whole thing is terrible. But at the end, he really redeemed himself. And I noticed, I did some IMDb searching, and he did win Best Actor for some
I have that here too. The Catalonian International Film Festival.
Yeah.
Which just kept making me think of, it's the Catalina wine mixer.
Yes. I thought, all right, I guess if every other nominee were bad, I probably would have picked him too, based on the last 20 minutes. So that's my very long-winded way of telling you what I thought. How about you?
You know what? I spent long stretches of this movie, because at first I was thinking of this as like a straight horror film or like a straight thriller. And I was thinking of this movie and I was like, boy, this feels like a much worse version of American Psycho.
Yes, I thought the exact same thing. 100%. And honestly, even when the movie ended, I hold true to that thought.
I still think I would think that, except for the fact that by the time I finished this, I was like, is this a good horror movie? No. Is this a great comedy? Maybe.
Yeah.
And you know what? I gotta say, as much as like I started off being like, there's long stretches of stuff where nothing's happening. You're like, man, this is bad. But as things go on, it sort of just builds steam. And eventually I'm like really having fun with it. And I can tell you the first moment that I audibly laughed out loud. And I probably could have laughed out loud sooner into the movie, but poor Alva. But it's the moment where he's calling and he's buzzing Alva and she's not responding because, oh, her boss is a psychopath.
Yeah.
And he comes out into, I guess, the room where all the secretaries or whatever they are, assistants are, and he jumps up on the desk and goes, "There you are!" And I just went like I just could not hold it in.
Yeah.
And is Nicolas Cage's performance like I don't know how to say this because it is a good performance. It's not a good serious performance, but he is giving so goddamn much.
Yeah.
Like nobody can say I've never seen Nicolas Cage half-ass a performance.
Yeah.
And what's
Yeah.
interesting is I was like, did this put him on the map? Like, because I thought this was really early in. And it's one of his first like major starring roles, but he did Raising Arizona, which I don't know if you've seen that, but that was a pretty major movie, the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Then Moonstruck, which I know Cher wins an Academy Award. I don't know if he's nominated, but I know he's big in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then this. So I'm like, just kind of surprised by it. And I feel like it's somewhat a thing I respect about Nicolas Cage, although it's also somewhat a laughable thing. He just sort of does everything.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what
His
I mean?
repertoire is tremendous. And, I think going back to what you said about like it being a comedy, it felt like, and we've said this before about Georgia Rule, actually. It's like it could have been a comedy if it were, I don't want to say funnier, but like maybe more intentionally funny. And it could have been a thriller if it weren't so unintentionally funny. And so it kind of just lives in this like mediocre, like halfway genre. And to be honest, I thought to myself, The Room is a much more entertaining movie that is also like scary bad.
Well, this is a movie that, like The Room, if by the end of this I'm telling you it's a movie to watch before you die, it is not because it is just good on what it's set at it's not good on what it's set out to do.
Right.
It is so poor at what it's set out to do that it is great in the attempt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But I
feel like
really did. Did you flip for the last 20 minutes? Did you think, holy shit, he's actually really good? Or like this movie is kind of interesting? Or so let me backtrack. Let me ask you a different question. Did you believe the whole time? So I'm going to go as far as to say, even when he got the fake vampire teeth. So if you're listening, you didn't see the movie and, we're not really selling it to you. He gets bitten by this vampire. He's convinced that he is a vampire. He goes to a costume shop and buys the plastic vampire teeth that they like hand out at Halloween.
Which I love by this point. There's like, I'm sorry, it's so not important, but there's like a $20 set of teeth. They're like, well, yeah, these are made out of this and fiberglass and they're slightly yellow for greater realism. And he's like, I'll take that. And they're $20, which I guess it's late 80s. So maybe that's more pricey.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the $20, so he has to buy like the $4 cheap plastic ones. And I'm like, why is this necessary?
Yeah, honestly. But he gets the cheap plastic ones. And at that point, I'm still, and maybe this is because I wasn't really paying like a super close attention. Maybe it's because I had just resigned myself to the fact that it was a bad film. I did not understand that he wasn't a vampire. I'm like, oh, he's turning into a vampire. His teeth probably didn't cut yet. He's getting these fake ones to make himself feel better.
See, and what's funny is I never, ever for a second thought he was a vampire.
Fuck.
Because there's a scene so early on after he has the first time, I think, with Rachel, where she bites his neck. And, he has this weird thing where he's like, I was with this bat.
Oh my
God. I was quite aroused. But after that, and after Rachel, there's a scene where in the morning he's like, oh, and I've brought you some coffee, my dear.
Yes. And she's
nobody's
gone.
there, and his hand is just shaking. And I'm like, oh, so he's just crazy. And the movie is telling us he is just crazy.
So I'm an idiot because I wrote so many notes. I'm going to have to rattle them off to you at some point because they're very funny. So I wrote, Rachel turns him into a vampire. He wasn't one the whole time because I really thought with the way he was behaving that he was just a vampire. What a glorious Sunday. How nice to not have to go into work. No comments on my coffee, please. If you don't like it, I'll send out. I do it all the time. And then I wrote, she's clearly not there. He goes to hand her the coffee. Then his hand shakes. WTF.
So were you like, is this a mirror image and she's invisible?
I was like, he doesn't realize she left. I'm an idiot.
I have some like super random notes here too. And I
Okay.
did like Giselle was next to me while I was watching this, but she wasn't actively watching with me. So like she's sort of looking up at times, and at one point she just goes, "This is a comedy, right?" And I went, "I don't think intentionally." I wrote, "That's turned me on. See you next week, therapist." Like I love that was just like
yes.
I love that the therapist was like, "We're winding down now, last couple seconds. Anything else you want to mention?" He was like, "Yeah, I saw a bat, and you know what? I'm into it." Like I'm like,
I
okay.
got very aroused. Yeah.
This is fully Nicolas Cage's Patrick Bateman, and I love it.
Yep.
Children Should Be Taught the Alphabet by Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It
That was
literally
very
says,
funny.
"Now that I've accepted this as a comedy, I enjoy it." Oh my god, there's a scene where I think it's like one of the last times Rachel is seducing him, and he's just horribly cross-eyed the entire time.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes.
he has to be doing this on purpose. Although the entire movie, he is making facial expressions that are like so not expressions a human makes. And I think
Yes.
there are parts in like Let's Get to the Facts where I'll be able to address some of that, but there are still parts of it where I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like I'm like,
I literally wrote down, this is a masterclass on face acting.
yes. I do.
Like straight up.
Also him looking in the mirror, and again, it's another moment where you can tell he's just delusional. He's going, "Where am I? Where am I? Where am I?" And it's like, we see you in the mirror, dude. Like you're there.
Yeah.
I again, this is a moment where I was like, oh, this is going for comedy, clearly, because you have the guy who goes, "You're in a bathroom and I'm taking a dump." Like I was like, okay,
Yes.
sold on this scene. It works. Like there are so many moments that work
Yeah.
as comedy.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess.
One thing that totally took me out of it, and I think it's because we had an unfortunately like tragic version of it in like the past year or two, was Nicolas Cage putting a gun with blanks in his mouth and pulling the trigger, and like nothing happens. And I'm like,
yeah.
that's not how that works. We know
Yeah.
well too much now.
Yeah. I thought that too. I thought number one, even the blanks would have killed him, just
Yes.
the sheer force. But number two, I was like, oh my God, on the movie set, can you imagine if Nicolas Cage accidentally blew his brains out? Like, holy shit.
Yes. So
yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, oh, this feels like it's aged poorly just because of real life events.
Yeah.
That's not the movie's fault though.
No, not at all.
There's like one or two weird things that aren't Nicolas Cage weird things that I wanted to point out.
Okay.
Alva goes over to her brother, which I can't tell how old they're supposed to be, but it feels like they're like 35 living with their parents.
Yes, I thought that too. I was like, okay, time to leave the nest.
And the brother goes, "What's the matter, baby?" And I was like, okay, that feels
Yeah.
weird. Again, in the sea of things that we were at in the movie already, I was like, whatever. But I just jotted it down.
It felt a little West Side Story to me. I was like, is he about to like go get Tony and Riff and like go snapping into the yeah, exactly. Like what is happening?
I wrote down here, why can't he just buy the good teeth? Why does he have to not have the money for the good teeth? Is it just so that he looks more ridiculous with those fake white teeth? But again, why even show him the good teeth then?
Right.
I did really enjoy the scene where it's like I feel like it's his last grand delusion where he's simultaneously imagining himself having the conversation with the therapist where he's still holding the wooden stake, but he's all put together and he's meeting this new woman.
Mhm.
And then you just see him on the street, a dilapidated mess. And I feel like I can't tell if the extras are really good in this movie or if there's several times where people just had no idea they were shooting a movie because so many people are giving very realistic looks like, stay away from this crazy guy in the streets of New York.
Yes.
And it's early enough that Nicolas Cage might not be like instantly recognizable to people, but they are like, what the hell is going on?
100%, 100%. And it's so funny because I actually even made a note and I noticed that too. But prior to that, I wrote, even the background actors are overacting. And then at one point when he was in the nightclub, everybody was dancing. There were lots of cuts of people dancing and they were all expressionless.
There's also a guy in the nightclub who looks like the Dollar General or Dollar Tree version of Stevie Wonder. Like I just kept noticing him, and I think of that line from The Office where they're like, "Oh, we love Stevie." Like I don't know, I just kept thinking like,
Yeah.
why is this guy here? He stands out so much.
That's so funny. So let me read you a couple of the notes that I wrote. I'll just rattle off some of the good ones. I wrote, this movie is less about a vampire and more about an office that needs a better HR department.
Oh my god, yes.
He's
Poor
just like he
Alva.
just like rapes her. He
To an
just
extent,
rapes her.
not blaming Alva at all, but there are so many times, obviously, not blaming her for the rape.
Right.
There's
right.
like 7 times before we get to that point where he's like, "No, I've changed. I'm gonna be cool. I promise. And she's like, he says he's gonna be cool. And I'm like, Alva, come on. He
It's
said
so
that 10
true.
times already.
And also, in fairness, I started thinking to myself, like, yo, if my boss was like, my life depends on you finding this document, I probably wouldn't punch out at 4:59. You know what I mean?
I do absolutely love, though, we get to hear Frank on the phone be like, take your time, no big deal. And I
Yeah.
was like, the fact that he hangs up the phone and he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. I was like, oh my God.
It was also like kind of like that whole plot line was a little ridiculous to me, where it's like he's some like literary agent, but he's obviously not, like, his name isn't on the door. Like, he works for an agency. He does not own an agency.
Yes.
And he needs to find a contract that is in the office. It's just in a file. And it's like, it causes him that much heartache. But I think obviously, like, knowing he's crazy, it's like, okay, that makes sense. And that's why nobody else was really reacting the way that he was reacting. But anyway.
And just like Patrick Bateman, he is just like some executive who makes a really good salary and sort of does nothing.
Yeah. Right.
Like
Very true.
his real job is just badgering Alva.
Yes. Yeah. So at one point, my boyfriend, who very generously offered to watch this with me, and I said no. I was like, I'm not going to put you through that. I'll watch it on my own.
I was gonna say all 3 times, or
Looking back, I should have just taken him up on it so I could have watched it in one shot and had somebody to keep me accountable to the obvious plot lines that I missed. He reminded me that Nicolas Cage is a Coppola.
yeah, he's credited. One of the first movies that he did was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's one of Spicoli's friends. He doesn't say a word in it. No, not one of Spicoli. I think he might be one of Spicoli's friends too, but he also works at the fast food place in the beginning. He's credited as Nicolas Coppola.
Wow.
And he started going by Nicolas Cage because he didn't want to go off the family name.
Right. Well, I wrote down, this motherfucker is a Coppola after the first couple of scenes. I wrote, Nicolas Cage has never been attractive a day in his life.
See, I had that conversation with Giselle too. I was like, Nicolas Cage, kind of good looking here, but it's also like, what's going on with this hairstyle? And you know what?
What's going on with this unibrow?
There's Nicolas Cage has been attractive in things, but he's also just so weird in things that you're like, what? Like,
yeah, I could
he's
never
really
get
picking
behind
up
it.
women, and I'm like, okay, somehow this voice is doing it for these women at these bars, I guess.
I don't know. I wrote, he's chasing this girl around the building and into the woman's bathroom. Is there no HR department here?
There was one woman who was like, what are you doing in here? I think she might be the HR department. I think that's it. That
must be all. I wrote, why is the vampire chick invisible? Because I didn't realize she was fake.
Oh God.
Such an idiot. I am so embarrassed, but also like, I mean, I have a bachelor's degree. Like I have a higher education. This movie is just not good.
I think that you trusted the movie a little too long.
I think so.
Now, to be fair to Nicolas Cage, to Peter's character, and to be unfair to Alva unnecessarily, how long does it take to find a goddamn file?
Thank you. That's
Like,
what I was saying.
By day 7, you know what? I would have gotten restless too. Would I have jumped on a desk or shaken my head like a cuckoo clock of some kind?
Or raped her.
I also would not have done that, or insisted upon having her shoot me. But I also would have been like, you know what? It's uncool that it's taken this long.
I wrote, why does the vampire chick have hairy armpits? Did you notice that?
I did not.
Yep. Rachel has hairy armpits.
Although Giselle apparently knows that you can see nipple tape at times.
Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that. Wow. Well, that's why we keep her around.
Yeah.
Then I wrote about Alba. I wrote, this grown ass woman is getting yelled at by her mother to go to work.
Again, I'm like, part of me was like, is Alba supposed to be younger? And I feel like the makeup in this movie is kind of weird.
Yes.
Alva and the therapist both look kind of weird at times. Like Alva at times, I'm like, why are your lips so red?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In like a weird way. And the therapist,
Yeah.
I'm like, why does it look like you're kind of doing like this weird, I don't want to say brown face, but she looks like she's been, you know, I think Giselle said using the wrong foundation. And I was like, that kind of makes sense. Because it looks like a sketch comedy of Amy Sedaris. I don't know if you know Amy Sedaris, but it looks like she's gonna quote like Broad City and be like, I was cyberbullied within an inch of my life last night. Like,
Yes.
I can't tell what's going on with her at times, but I'm like, okay.
It's bad. It's bad. And then the last thing I wrote was, wow, he's really dropping hard C's.
I forgot about that. Yes.
like 13 times. He's like really taking it off the road. Yeah. All right. So
I do
anyway, those
also
are my notes.
I do also really like at one point the woman leaves him a voicemail and she's like, you know, fuck you or something. And he's just laying on the couch and just to himself because she can't hear him. He goes, fuck you too. like
Yeah, I actually have that in my notes. He goes, well, fuck you too, sister.
yes, I forgot sister.
Sister. Insane.
Oh my god.
All
Okay.
right, let's move on.
I guess we should get to some facts.
Yeah, let's spit some facts. Spit some truth, Dill.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, ducks.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Tell the people.
Okay. So I have a whole bunch of things here. Do you want me to go over first commentary or sort of like trivia about the movie?
You pick. It's all the same to me.
I'll
I didn't
be
even know
brief
what was happening.
I'll be brief with the commentary. So first of all, obviously, if you haven't realized by now, the movie stars Nicolas Cage, and this really is his movie. I'm not even going to mention another actor in it.
Yeah.
He won Best Actor at the Catalina Wine Mixer or at the 1989 Catalonian International Film Festival, one or the other. It's written by Joseph Minion, who I didn't see having written anything else major. Directed by Robert Bierman, who I haven't seen directing anything else I'd heard of.
Tracks.
So before we give you the Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb scores, let's see what I listened to some audio commentary from the director and Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage called this a horror comedy. And he said this and Face Off are two of his favorite movies he's ever made. And he said he's always taking a chance to stay interested in what he's doing and to stay interesting. And you know what? That is totally fair because he is clearly just taking chances left and right in this movie.
Yeah.
He said loneliness and inability to find love drive Peter insane in the commentary. And I'm like, okay. Nicolas Cage said he took his $40,000 pay from this movie because, as you can tell, this was a pretty low budget movie. So I guess I'm not sure if that was a big amount or not, but he said he bought his first sports car with it that he still has to this day.
Wow.
The director and Nicolas Cage during the commentary are also laughing at this movie. They're actively laughing at parts of this movie. And Nicolas Cage, after he tries to shoot himself with the blank, he says he wanted to try and say boo-hoo in an emotional way.
Yes.
Because he goes, boo! Boo!
Yes.
And I did not realize that's what he's doing. And I'm like, God damn, he pulled it off.
I wrote that down too. I wrote down, why does he go boo-hoo?
Because he was like, he literally says in the commentary, I really want to try and say boo-hoo just in like an emotional way, you know? And I'm just like, okay. He said about the voice that he is sort of doing an impression of his father, who was a professor and tried to speak with distinction. The director said he did not even notice the accent, which I'm like, okay, Nicolas Cage, I sort of, you were doing something. Director, where were you, sir?
Honestly. Oh God, it's like hard to listen to.
Nicolas Cage said he was laughing at some of his expressions in the commentary too, just these faces he was making. Like he's going, oh my God, what is that face in the commentary? And I'm like, this is hysterical.
Good. I'm glad.
He said he auditioned the alphabet sequence in his hotel room to his cat, Lewis. I just thought that was cute.
Wait. He auditioned?
Yeah, he was practicing the alphabet sequence with his cat,
he was
Lewis,
rehearsing.
Rehearsing. He used the word audition, I think. Or maybe I just screwed it up. Whatever.
Either way, you're both crazy.
And the filmmakers, I guess the director and Nicolas Cage, both said that this is a somewhat ambiguous movie at the beginning of the commentary. And I was like, it is quite clear he's not actually becoming a vampire. But I guess maybe I'm wrong now.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get it, but I don't think that makes it. I think it's pretty ambiguous.
I love that. That's our new word, ambiguous.
Yeah, it's pretty ambiguous, I would say.
Okay, let's give some more facts here.
Okay.
So, where am I? Box office.
Oh, I saw this. Abysmal.
Yeah, but it was such a cheaply made movie too. So the budget was only $2 million. That's what they estimate. And you know what? It's a pretty small budget. I don't know. Although again, I'm like, somebody said, yeah, I'll give hundreds of $1,000s towards this movie. You know what I mean? People produced this.
What was the budget for Clerks?
Less than
27,000.
Yeah.
Thank you. 27,000. This was 2 million. Come on.
The box office for this $725,738, which is super specific.
Yeah.
Critics' consensus: he's a vampire. He's a vampire. He's a vampire. That's what Rotten Tomatoes said.
So funny.
The IMDb score 6 out of 10. The Rotten Tomatoes audience score 53, and the tomato meter 61.
But you know what? This is a cult classic. So there are people out there whose personalities revolve around them liking this movie. No offense, Scotty Cameron. I'm not saying you're one of them, but there are people just like The Room, just like Rocky Horror Picture Show, that like their whole life is how much they love this movie, and they'll talk to you about it at any opportunity. And they're the ones that are on there rating it highly. So it's hard to trust that number, is all I'm saying.
I don't think so. There are just like critical reviews that were somewhat decent.
All right.
And the critic score is higher than the audience score, but also Scotty Cameron, I kind of get it, but let's go on. IMDb featured review, 10 out of 10. Just keep watching. This is one of those movies you have to watch to the end to truly appreciate. It's a mess, but it goes places you can't imagine despite the workmanlike screenwriting and the slow pace at the beginning. It's worth it. Charlie Kaufman could have written it. It's so bizarre and beyond the norm for the silly Hollywood movie it's disguised as. I don't want to analyze it as some metaphor for a relationship with a blood-sucking pitch as others have, or argue what's real and what's not. I watched it expecting some anemic late 80s comedy, and with that expectation, I found myself bolting upright in my chair in surprise at what it delivered. One of Nick Cage's best early performances ranks with Raising Arizona and Valley Girl, except he's never sympathetic, ever. In that sense, I understand what people mean when they say it's a monster movie.
You know what? I agree.
Couple other very brief reviews. Matt Brunson from Film Frenzy. Even by the standards of loony Nicolas Cage performances, Vampire's Kiss features one of the looniest. He pulls out all the stops, even some you didn't know exist. Peter Canavis from Celluloid Dreams. Not much in the plot department, at least until they spring the twist on you. Which I'm not sure what twist they mean.
I mean, for me, the twist was when Nicolas Cage started being a good actor.
But it's dark, strange, and very funny. This movie, along with Raising Arizona and Moonstruck, announced Nicolas Cage's enthusiasm for weird but deeply committed comic performances. Which, again, I can't disagree with that either. Peter Travers from Rolling Stone. What this movie needs isn't criticism. It's more like a stake through the heart.
Good one.
Bob Grimm from Reno News and Review. Love that roach. Which extends into something.
Yeah, hold on. I know where you're going. Back me up a bit. When does he eat the roach?
When I think he's just destroying his apartment or something like that. And at one point, there's a roach on his stove. He picks it up and eats it.
Okay, I must have missed that part.
And there's a cut in there which could have made it so that he did not actually eat the roach, but he says in commentary that he ate a real cockroach twice. And the director, apparently the director was like, yeah, you were really difficult on set sometimes, so I made you do a second take.
That's amazing. I did read something that said every muscle in his body fought him eating that roach, but he did it anyway.
Yes.
And all I could think of was, for what? Did that save your performance?
You know what they said? He said something and I thought it kind of made sense. He said that shot alone is worth, whatever, $2 million in special effects, because I've been in theaters watching this with people, he said, and when people see that scene, they have a massive reaction. And you know what? It's a fair point.
Yeah. All right.
I feel like you just said all right, and then your eyes trailed off in such a fuck that way.
I mean, listen, I don't know. It's like, in what's the movie that Leonardo DiCaprio with the bear that he won the Oscar for? The Revenant. He did some crazy shit in that movie too. And it's like, we only gave you this Oscar because we felt sorry for not giving it to you before.
We were just late, yeah.
Yeah. Like you didn't really need to do that.
Another thing from DVD commentary that I didn't hear, the director revealed that furniture and the glass that Peter destroys in his apartment after Jackie dumps him is all real furniture and glass. The scene could only be shot in one take. 2 cameras were on set for the shot, and one of them broke. He still can't believe how he allowed Cage to perform such a potentially hazardous stunt. The film was a non-union production. While shooting the scene where Peter and Jackie leave the bar and hail a cab, there were dozens of union workers harassing the cast and crew, blowing bullhorns. Which it makes sense with this tiny of a budget. According to associate producer and casting director Marcia Schulman, in order to get turned on, Cage asked to have hot yogurt poured over his toes while he was doing a love scene with Jennifer Beals. That is weird.
No.
I don't know. Again, this is from the IMDb trivia section, so take it with a grain of salt.
I'm sorry. Did I hear you say hot yogurt?
Yes. Poured over his toes.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. And this has been Movies to Watch Before You Die.
Breezing past that, other actors who were considered for the role of Peter Lowe. Again, this comes from IMDb trivia. I don't know if I trust this. Sylvester Stallone.
Oh my God.
A vampire. Judd Nelson.
Okay.
John Travolta.
Honestly? Okay.
Travolta and Nicolas Cage sort of go hand in hand because I always think of Face Off, which I don't think you've ever seen, and it's like
No.
the two just work together. It's like peanut butter and jelly, except in an insane asylum.
Yeah.
And lastly, Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I just don't believe that to be true.
That can't
But I
be.
love to imagine it, don't you?
Yeah.
It's too late, Alva. You should have gotten me the file sooner. I'm going to
I'm a
bite you and
vampire.
rape you.
Oh, Jesus
Like,
Christ.
I can't
All right.
imagine Schwarzenegger being like, now that I've done Predator and Commando, what's next? Maybe that vampire's kiss. Like, maybe somebody in the room one time was like, maybe we could get Schwarzenegger. And they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Maybe.
The last thing I have here, the shots of Lowe walking down the street at the end, clearly mad and talking to himself, were filmed with a long lens from a distance. The people walking past him are actual people unaware that a movie is being filmed. For example, the couple that Lowe says, I'm a vampire, kill me too, while holding a
Yeah.
stake are not actors, but real pedestrians passing by who have no idea a scene is being filmed. The reactions are
Wow.
genuine.
That's
So-
great.
I don't know how much of the movie that's happening for, but it feels like it's happening for a lot.
Well, at least in that portion of the movie,
Definitely there.
for sure.
So
Every
I think we got
other-
all the facts.
Paid background actor, or maybe not paid background actor, was expressionless or so expressionful. Like in the initial scene where he meets Rachel in the bar, those background actors are like, it's like watching a middle school production where everyone in the background is going peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots. It was terrible.
Well, the real people give great reactions to Nicolas Cage being
Yes.
an absolute lunatic.
They do. All
So
right.
we're running short on time, as
We
I'm sure
are.
that
I'm
you were just about to point out
anxious.
to me as well.
Yes.
Let's talk about our verdicts.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
I want you to go first.
You
Do
know
you want me to
what?
go first? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
nervous. Okay. So listen, I'm gonna say this. This is a movie that I'm thinking about it in terms of Corey saying, do you want me to watch this with you? And me saying, no, I wouldn't subject you to that. This is gonna be terrible. I think I would sit down and watch it with him so that he could like experience what I experienced. I wouldn't do it in 3 parts. I'd be like, just watch. The end gets really good. The end gets really good. But I think after that, I would be like, I've had enough. I never need to see this again. I think it's like a one night stand kind of movie. I'm glad that we watched it, I guess. I don't think my life is any better for it. I don't see a need to ever watch it again. I don't think I'm going to quote it ever. I probably will only think about it around Halloween time or when I see Nicolas Cage. My verdict is it is not a movie to watch before you die. Dylan.
I definitely think I might quote it at times, just the alphabet, too late, and like there's so many other
Yeah.
things.
Sure,
but-
maybe.
This is such a good movie to watch in like a group. Like I feel like either in a group or if you're super fucked up, this is a very fun movie to watch.
Sure.
And I'm so tempted to call it a movie to watch before you die. Like I'm really like right on the cusp. And I'm
I
I'm
feel
gonna
kind of
say
similar.
it's not a movie to watch before you die, but goddamn, is this fun? And I'm like, you know what? If you have a group of friends together, like next Halloween, it would, if you guys are marathoning a bunch of movies and somebody randomly throws this in there, it's gonna be so funny to see the reactions from the crowd. Like
Yeah.
if you're like, we're gonna watch Halloween Scream in one other movie, what should we watch? And somebody's like, oh, you have Vampire's Kiss. Let's watch that. Seeing the reactions of the people who haven't seen it is gonna be fantastic.
Yeah. That's fair. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's not something that I would say you need to watch before you die, but I wouldn't be opposed to it if you did watch it before you died.
Yeah, I think I'd recommend it, but not call it a movie to watch before you die.
Yeah. All right. We agreed.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
agreed, but not on movie
Not-
watch before you die. But we
Yeah,
both agreed
yeah,
it's fun.
The list is still blank.
Yes, we'll get there.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. If you think of a movie to watch before you die, please send it to us at movies to watch before you die at gmail.com, or you can leave us a voice message on anchor.fm.
/movies to watch. And just thanks for listening in general, peeps. And
Yeah.
if you want to suggest a movie like Scotty Cameron did, we will watch it eventually.
Yeah. Sounds great. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
You just put it in the right file according to alphabetical order. You know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Huh?